Hello, and welcome to Woodland Gardens here in beautiful South Knoxville. My name is Hillary Gallegos, and I am a Master Gardener in the Knox County Master Gardener Program. Today we are going to look at pruning a cherry laurel, and this is the variety Nana. I planted these approximately in 2017. They came in a ball and burlap. They were approximately maybe 3 feet tall and maybe, a 2.5 foot diameter. So I have not pruned these bushes since I planted them. They get morning sun on this side, and they get the western sun on the opposite direction. I planted them in order to create a screen, and the screen was from wind, necessarily not to not see my neighbor. So we both want to be able to see each other's property and enjoy that, but we wanted to create a screen because the wind really blows from this one direction to the other, and to help contain some leaves from our over 100-year-old oak trees in our neighbor's yard.
Hi, I'm Marcia Lehman, and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. And as Hillary said, we're at her house today to prune a cherry laurel. Now I want to make the point that cherry laurel is in the family Prunus laurocerasus. And I make a big deal about that because on this species, only the seeds are toxic. There's another laurel called Prunus caroliniana, and on that, the leaves and the stems and the seeds are toxic. So you want to be sure you know what species you have. So with that, generally these shrubs don't need a whole lot of pruning, but somewhere in the first 4 or 5 years, which is where we are with Hillary's, they need to have a little bit of shaping depending on what you want to do with them. And as Hillary said, she wants them to get a little bushier, a little wider. Yes, they will naturally get a little taller, but it really doesn't take, it's not a major overhaul like some other bushes, but it has some aspects that are not exactly fun, because the first thing you want to do is take off any of the 4 Ds: dead, diseased, damaged, or dysfunctional. In this case, I don't see anything that's really dysfunctional, not getting in the way of the car or somebody trying to mow lawn. But there is a little bit of dead wood around that I noticed, and so we'll just prune some of those off. And if it's a stem, we'll take it back to a leaf node. And so, we'll work our way around. And the ones on the outside are kind of obvious. The ones on the inside, you really need to get down on your knees and crawl around and look for them deep inside. So when I was scouting around before this, you'll see little twigs in here that have no leaves, and if you just put a little pressure on them, they go snap and break off. So there's another one. So yeah, you need to kind of crawl into the bush and find some of these things. And while you're in here, you may find some that are not yet dead, but they are so deep inside that they are getting no sunshine, no airflow, and it may look more like this, which is really kind of scraggly. Some of the leaves are already kind of yellow. So if that's deep inside, I would take off some of those. And it means I'm going to disappear into the bush from time to time, but I'll keep talking even if you can't see me. So what I'm doing now is taking off some of those little branches on the inside that, if you could see them, they're doing this inside, which means eventually they're going to rub, but create an opening for disease. So the fact that they're not getting much sunlight to start with, we're just going to take those off now. As a preemptive strike. But it does require you, this is also why I wear a hat, it does require you to get deep inside the middle of the bush to find those dead things, or those things that are totally deprived of sunlight. And as I say, if they're already dead, you just put some pressure on them and they go snap. So, yep, this is the part that's not exactly fun. I'm not taking a lot of material out. It would take me quite a while to go through a bush this size. So I'm just going to pause now. We've shown you kind of some of the stuff you need to do, and you don't need to watch us do all of this. Okay, so I'm done crawling around inside the shrub. We took out just a little bit of stuff, mostly the things that were crossing, things that were obviously dead. Now we're going to work on the outside of the plant. And the first thing I want to point out is, you'll notice that these blossoms, well, here's one that's still got a little white on it. But we made it a point not to prune this while it was still flowering, because the pollinators love this plant. So we've waited until the flowers have faded. Now, in the handout, you'll see that the seeds are the only thing on this variety that are toxic. So the other point is that it takes a lot of energy for this shrub to make seeds after these flowers have been pollinated. So if you really want to put the energy of the plant back into growing the plant rather than making seeds, then you really want to come in and deadhead these blossoms. Now, I'm not going to deadhead all of these, but however many I take out, that's a whole lot less seeds that the plant's going to spend energy to make, less seeds for the birds to get, because it has no effect on them and they drop somewhere else. So if you're really trying to put energy back into the plant, then prune off as many of the spent blossoms right at the base where they're attached. And we'll see if I can't just clear out a little section so it becomes obvious that an area has been denuded. We won't make you watch all that. We'll hit pause, and I'll prune some more, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so Hillary and I clearly have not stripped all the blossoms off this, but we took it off this quadrant just so you could see the difference between the side that has not had the blossoms removed and this corner that has. Again, you don't have to do this all at one time. Come out on a nice afternoon, spend an hour, get one plant done, come back the next day, do another one. But anyway, so we would then proceed to strip most, probably not all, you always miss some, but it's your decision how many of these you want to take off. But since Hillary wants to get this thing to grow and be a little bushier, we're going to take that off so that the plant puts its energy into getting bushy and not making seeds. So get the blossoms off. Then we're going to come around, we're going to look for some more dead wood on the outside, or dead or dying. It's green on one end, brown on the other. Again, you won't find a lot of it on these shrubs, but there'll be a little bit of it. So just walk around the entire plant looking for those things. Then when we get that done, we're actually ready to start to talk about shaping the plant. So one of the things that happens is there's a natural inclination for the bottom to be a little narrow. And when the bottom is narrower than the middle, then it's not going to get as much sunlight. It's really hard to convince yourself, but pruning stimulates growth. So if we want to get some growth on the bottom, we're going to have to come in and do a little bit of pruning on here. It doesn't have to be a lot. But if you want it to branch out and get a little bushier, we're just going to take off the end leaf node. Go back to the next leaf node and snip it, and that will encourage some additional growth. So again, we would do that all the way around. If there's a spot on the bush that isn't filled out as well, let me walk around the back. It may not be as obvious to you, but on this side, it's not quite as full. So in here, we would do a similar thing and just do a little bit of pruning back to the next leaf node to encourage some additional growth to come out this way. We're not taking anything off the top. This thing doesn't need a haircut. It can get as tall as the variety will get, which is about 10 feet at maturity, but that's going to take a few more years. But where it's a little thin, reach down in here, prune back to another leaf node. That encourages growth. It'll take a little while, but by the end of the summer, you should start to see it starting to fill back out again. So, and again, if you've got an area that you want to grow, then be sure to take all the blossoms off that section, because otherwise all the plant energy is going into making seed. So, you know, this side is going to need to have some blossoms cleaned out so that the energy goes into that. But otherwise, we've got good stuff going down here. As we come around, I might just do a little selective pruning, not a whole lot. This side is bushier on the bottom than the other side. But in here is where I would go next to clean out all the blossoms so that we can encourage the plant energy to go into additional growth. And while you're at it, when you see anything dead, diseased, damaged, take it off. You can do that any time of year. But we've got nice growth at the top, a couple spots around the side here that need some touch up, and a little bit around the bottom on the other side. And yeah, that's going to take some time. We're not going to make you watch all that, but that's what I would do to this plant. Each plant is going to have a slightly different shape. At the beginning, I have a couple still images. I think Hillary's got 7 of these plants along here. Every one is slightly different, but they're all looking healthy. Just a very little bit of shot hole disease. I've seen laurels that have had lots of shot hole disease. These are not an example of that. So again, the cherry laurel doesn't take a ton of pruning, but it takes a lot of detailed pruning. Or the pruning that you do will be very detailed. It'll be snipping off those blossoms and making very judicious cuts. You will never take a hedge trimmer to a cherry laurel. Okay, so I hope you learned something about pruning cherry laurels today. Thank you for joining us.